All right, so I'm inside the trailer and I just wanted to do this review because I'm actually about to sell this trailer. I've been using it for a couple of years and it's been a great unit for me. I moved over to a moto van, so I don't really use this trailer anymore. But when I was buying it, I had a lot of questions and I figured I'd make a video just to cover some of the things that I was having trouble finding or deciding, and hopefully it will help anybody that's looking at one of the Intech little toy haulers. I'm not going to go through all the different features. There's videos on that, but I'll just go through kind of my use case, what I've been using it for, my experience with it, and then I'll cover things that I like about it, things that I'm kind of ambivalent about, and things that I don't really like about it. Essentially, I wanted to be able to have a camper and not have a pickup truck. So I needed a place, so I essentially needed a toy hauler because I needed a place to put my bike, and I also needed something that would be a camper. And really, these Intech units are kind of the only ones that do that effectively. So what I've taken a number of trips. Mostly I'll just use my 4Runner if I don't do some long multi-week trip. But I've used this for essentially living out of it for a week or more at a time. That's kind of when I was using this camper. And it's awesome because I can put a bike in here. I've also used it when I'd stay at an Airbnb. I use it kind of as a garage. So I can put a bike in here. When I get to wherever I'm going, I can actually sleep in here. If this camper this is a queen mattress. It's got a bump out, which is essentially like a pop-up tent style thing that bumps out. So there's plenty of space. Even with a bike in here, you can sleep in here. You can walk around, plenty of space. Obviously lots of cargo space. You can easily fit 2 bikes in here, probably 3 if you load one backwards, 2 dirt bikes specifically. Pretty sure you can fit 2 full-size motorcycles in here without too much problems either. I've seen pictures of people putting Harleys and stuff in here without too much issue. So a lot of cargo space. Normally when I'd camp, I'd work from here. So it's really nice having this window and actually setting up a table. You can see my little folding table. So I set up a little folding table, a chair right here in front of this window, and I work from here, and it's actually just wonderful because you have this window. You can look out. I'm at a storage facility now, but normally you look out on some woods or something kind of nice and enjoyable. So that's kind of what I've used it for. I've been towing it with a Toyota 4Runner, and it tows really, really well. Because it is not super big, and it's very light because it's all aluminum. So, and it's got good brakes and everything on it works awesome. The Toyota 4Runner is a mid-size SUV, and it's pretty terrible at towing, but it tows it no problem, even fully loaded, tows it great. All right, so first let's cover the things that I really like about it. And the main thing, to just get out of the way because this is a long-term review, is that this trailer has been absolutely solid from a durability, reliability perspective. So if you're not familiar with Intech, they are a premium brand. They're kind of on the camper trailer scale. They make enclosed trailers in general, but they also make campers that sit kind of like below Airstream. They're at that tier that's above most other things, but below Airstream. So it's a premium brand. Immediately when you start using this thing, you kind of feel like everything is just nice. Everything's put together well. Everything's thought out. If you have experience with RVs and campers and stuff, you know that a lot of times there's just a lot of like kind of crappy, just glued together plywood stuff in them. And this is not the case with this camper at all. Like everything just feels really solid. The whole thing is aluminum. That was a big selling point to me. I'm from Michigan. Rust is a huge issue here. I've had a few trailers, just car trailers and stuff before, and they're always rusty. Everything's always rusty. Everything just gets destroyed just sitting around. So I knew that was going to be an issue potentially. I had this camper for a little over 2 years, so it's not really, rust is not really a problem a couple of years, but if I were to keep it for a longer period of time, that would be a problem, and I just didn't want something that was going to fall apart just sitting there. So it's all aluminum. The sides are aluminum. The frame is 100% aluminum. The only thing that is, there's a few steel things. The axle's steel. Obviously brakes, things like that have to be steel. And then there's some fasteners that are steel or stainless steel. So when I got it, what I did is I actually went through and just put some CRC marine anti-rust stuff on everything that was steel that I could find. And then every time I don't use it in the winter, but every time I'd use it in the winter to go down south, first thing I do when I get there, I stop at a car wash and just spray it all off. So aluminum, huge plus. That leads to the next plus that I really like, is that it's really light, and it means that it tows really well, which I kind of talked about already. The one other thing that I like is that it's one of a kind. There's not really a lot of other companies that have this form factor of a really lightweight toy hauler. So really, I almost didn't have a lot of options. And I think they come up with kind of a unique solution here of, you get a lot of functionality in a really small and, most importantly, light package that you can tow with a small or mid-size SUV. You don't need normally, if you're looking at a toy hauler, you're looking at minimum of, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 pounds for just an empty trailer without anything in it. And from a towing perspective, that puts you into, you know, at least a mid-sized truck category. So another thing that's really nice is the fact that it's all already done. If you're looking at just buying a cargo trailer and setting it up yourself, by all means, could be a cool project. But the fact that this is all set, it's all thought out, it's got, you know, windows, and it's insulated, and it's got this nice carpet on the walls and floor, or walls and ceiling, and it's got a nice coin floor, is really, really nice. You don't have to do anything. You buy the thing and you can start using it immediately. That's a huge plus for me personally, because I just didn't want to get into a project. Which gets me to another thing, is that it is insulated. So it actually stays pretty cool in here in the summer. Sometimes, you know, I'd go riding and I have to leave my dog in the camper. So with a window open and if the fan running, that can run off the battery, no problem. Especially if it's in the shade, it actually stays really cool inside this camper. The aluminum sides, the roof is shiny aluminum, so it reflects a lot of the sun. And that's a huge plus for me. It's obviously not going to be insulated when you have the bump out, because that's essentially a tent. But if you have that closed, the whole thing is insulated, which is nice. So another interesting pro of this trailer, which doesn't get discussed very much, is the suspension. So it doesn't have leaf springs like a lot of normal trailers. It has this, I don't remember what it's called, like a live axle, or essentially it's kind of like a Volkswagen Beetle suspension. And what this means is that you actually have a lot of ground clearance on this trailer. Whether that matters to you or not is, you know, up to you, but it does sit pretty high off the ground, which is nice if you're going somewhere sketchy. So when comparing this, so this is the Explorer, which is kind of the mid-size unit. And I just wanted to quickly talk about this versus the Discover, I think, which is the bigger unit. It normally has 2 bump outs. It has a kitchen inside. And when I was looking at these, I was on the fence between those two. And I'll just cover the differences that I found. I went to an RV place and looked at both of them. And I decided on the smaller unit. Not the super small one, but the mid-size Explorer. And this is why. First of all, towing with a 4Runner, if you look at them in person, the Discover is much, much bigger. It is huge. The 4Runner will tow it technically, but it weighs, I think, almost twice as much, and it is giant. This thing is a little bit bigger than the 4Runner. The larger unit is a lot bigger than the 4Runner, so it looks like you're towing a giant box if you're towing it with a 4Runner. And so that's probably obviously it's also more expensive, but that's probably the biggest downside of the Discover, is just it's not only heavier, but it's also much physically larger. The kitchen on the Discover is inside versus this one's outside. The height of the camper. So in this one, I have to be a little bit hunched over, which has not been a big deal for me. You get used to it pretty quickly. And I think there's 2 more windows on the Discover. And yeah, that's honestly pretty much it as far as the main differences. And obviously it's a lot bigger, but for me, I don't need the space. I wouldn't mind a little bit more headroom and an inside kitchen, but it's not a big deal. I would much rather have a smaller unit personally. So if you're comparing those two, that's probably the main things that you want to have in mind. All right, now on to things that I have mixed feelings about. So first of all, I mentioned it in the comparison of the Explorer versus Discover, the headroom. You get used to it pretty quickly, but I'm 5'11" and I have to be a little bit hunched over in here. Usually it takes me like a day to stop hitting my head on the AC unit, and then I don't really notice it anymore. So it's not a huge deal. The other thing is the bump out, which is, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. The pros to that is that it's very space efficient. So this unit's very small, but you can still sleep in it. When you bump it out, you have a lot of room. You feel it's very roomy in here. But you are essentially sleeping in a tent, and you can't really stealth sleep in this. You can't pull into a rest stop and sleep in your camper because you have to unfold your bump out. And obviously it is a tent, so it's not insulated from sound or from weather or like cold, hot. Obviously it's waterproof, but from cold, hot. So that's something that I'm kind of, it's really nice if you're in the woods in the summer, you get a nice breeze. It's really enjoyable. If it's cold outside, or if somebody's got a generator running or something like that, it's not a pro. Then the other one is the outside kitchen. So I personally, if I'm camping in the woods, I love it because I can cook outside, and it doesn't stink up my camper. I can cook bacon all I want. It doesn't smell anything up. Typically when we're camping, got a bunch of friends, and it's kind of a social activity. So it's nice having everything outside, so you can do all this. You can socialize as you make food. The downside is if the weather's crappy, or if when I'm working in here, I'm by myself with my dog, and I just want to make a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, or just cook something real quick. I don't have that ability. I think if I was using this more, I maybe would just have a little hot plate, electric hot plate or something that would just keep it here on the shelf, or maybe even a microwave. And finally, to things that I really don't love, and that they're not really a deal breaker, but they're probably not my most favorite parts of this camper. The first one's obviously the price. These things are expensive. If you buy one of these new, it's gonna set you back like almost $30,000, which is a lot for what is essentially just a really nice enclosed trailer. The nice thing is they do hold their value pretty well, so you are getting a lot of that back, but it's expensive to start with. Other thing is the HVAC situation in here. So like I said, in the summer, it's really nice if the weather it's not too cold or too hot, but because of the bump out, you are essentially sleeping in a tent. That's all there is to it. You are off the ground, which is nice, but you are in a tent. If it's super hot, and your AC is gonna run all the time because it's super hot outside and there's no insulation in that tent. If it's really cold, like when I spend a lot of time camping in near freezing temperatures, I had a space heater in here and it was running quite a bit. Luckily mine had a thermostat, so it wasn't running continuously, but it will run quite a bit. So I think that's a pretty big con for me. Again, it's not a big deal if you're just here for a weekend, but when I was staying in it for a week or for 2 weeks at a time, you definitely feel like you were living outside. And I'm somebody that really loves being outside, so it's not really that huge of a deal for me. I actually kind of enjoy it. But if you're getting a camper to be indoors in the woods, which I can understand, this is probably not going to be the unit for you, because you essentially are in a tent, especially when you're sleeping, because you're sleeping in a tent. So that's just something to keep in mind. So other than that, I really don't have any complaints about this camper. It has been super solid, super awesome, and I wish I could keep it, but I don't really use it with my motovan, so I don't need it. But it's been solid. If you're considering one of these, just pay attention to some of the things that I've said as far as making your decision. And if you guys have any other questions, any specific questions that I can answer from my some years of ownership of this, definitely leave a comment and I'd be happy to do so.